Before kickoff, before the goals, before the chaos spilled across the pitch, Birmingham City versus West Ham United in 1984 wasn't just another league match. It was two firms with a reputation to protect, the Zulus on one side and the ICF on the other, meeting in a stadium already known for heavy tension and explosive atmospheres. What happened inside St. Andrews that day would go on to be remembered as one of the most chaotic afternoons of the 1980s. And unlike many clashes of that era, this one wasn't hidden in rumors or pub stories. Because the cameras captured the moment the stands lost control, the moment barriers meant nothing, and the moment both sets of fans spilled onto the pitch in a surge of blue and claret. This is the story of Birmingham versus West Ham, 1984, the day the ICF took on the Zulus inside St. Andrews. To understand why this match carried so much weight, you have to understand the two firms behind it. Birmingham City's Zulus were unlike most firms of the early 80s, multiracial, organized, and fiercely territorial. Their reputation at St. Andrews was well known, and visiting supporters rarely had an easy afternoon. On the other side were West Ham's inner-city firm, one of the most recognized names in English football hooliganism. The ICF traveled in numbers, they traveled with confidence, and they were used to walking into hostile grounds without backing away. So when the fixtures came out in 1984, everyone knew this wasn't just a football match. It was a meeting between two groups who were not only willing, but almost expecting confrontation. Inside the stadium, the tension built from the moment the gates opened. Outside, police were already preparing for a heavy afternoon. And for both firms, this was a chance to make a statement, on the pitch, in the stands, and anywhere an opportunity presented itself. From the first whistle, you could feel this wasn't a normal match. The noise was sharp, the atmosphere was restless, but the real turning point came midway through the game. In the corner of St. Andrews, where the away supporters were packed in tight, the ICF made their presence known, chanting, taunting, pushing against the thin lines of stewards, separating them from the home fans. The Zulus, positioned opposite, didn't take long to respond. What started as back-and-forth shouting quickly turned into a surge of bodies pressing forward. Then came the moment caught clearly on camera. A barrier gave way. The crowd pushed through, and suddenly dozens of supporters spilled onto the pitch. What happened next was pure chaos. West Ham fans charged out first, sprinting across the grass, while Birmingham supporters broke through from their side. Police rushed in but were instantly overwhelmed by the speed and scale of the invasion. Officers formed loose lines, trying desperately to push fans back, but both groups kept breaking through. You can see it in the footage, the shouting, the running, the punches thrown, people slipping on the turf as more bodies flood in. This wasn't organized, calculated hooliganism anymore. This was instinct, adrenaline, and the raw energy of two firms who had been waiting all afternoon for this moment. For a few minutes, the match didn't exist. The stadium wasn't a stadium, it was a battleground. Eventually, with mounted police brought in and officers forming a solid line across the halfway line, the situation inside began to calm. Fans were pushed back toward their ends, scattered groups dragged away, and slowly the match was able to restart. But the atmosphere never recovered. Every chant felt like a challenge. Every movement in the stands felt like it could trigger another surge. Inside St. Andrews, the damage was already done. When the match finally reached full time, the tension didn't disappear, it simply shifted outside. Police moved quickly to escort West Ham supporters out of the ground, trying to keep the firms separated, but the mood around the streets of Small Heath was still volatile. Reports from the day mention scattered confrontations as groups moved away from the stadium. Nothing on the scale of what happened inside, but enough to keep police stretched. A few clashes broke out near the railway routes and along the side streets leading away from St. Andrews, but compared to the chaos captured on the pitch, the violence outside was short, fragmented, and quickly dispersed. Most of the story, most of what people still talk about, comes from inside the stadium, where the cameras recorded everything and the two firms collided in full view of the crowd. For West Ham and Birmingham, the rivalry would continue, but 1984 remains the day St. Andrews saw one of its most chaotic afternoons. When the ICF and the Zulus didn't just clash outside the ground, they met right in the middle of the pitch.